Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another fun-filled episode of the group chat on the two-way platform. We are happy to have you, our community members, participating with us today, and we want you to chime in, ask questions, share your thoughts on the news of the day, anything that's going on, anything that happens to be on your mind. We would love to discuss it. As always, we just ask you to manifest the two-way ethos of peace, love, and understanding, and also carry that mantra with you as you participate vigorously in our comment section. I think I say something to that effect week after week. I have it almost memorized, but it's a slight derivation on that little speech every week. Please keep bringing those positive vibes. We love it. We love to see it. This week, we have another great show. We're going to talk about our reactions to the State of the Union, everything politics, foreign policy, and whatever else is on your minds. Our special guest of the week is Madeline Summerville, a Democratic strategist, who we are so happy to have with us. Thank you for being here. And I'm joined, of course, by Nina Turner and Emma Jo Morris, my friends, who are going to argue, discuss, debate, and do all the fun things we do every week. So let's start with the State of the Union. It was, for my purposes, I was kind of digging the State of the Union more than usual. I like when people get medals and awards. I don't like when they talk about policies I disagree with that they're probably not going to implement anyway. It usually feels like a waste of everybody's time, but I'm happy for the hockey team. I'm happy for our veterans. I was in general, I was in a good mood. Trump didn't even ruin my good mood by screaming at the Supreme Court justices to their face. That's kind of awkward interactions that I don't like to. It's
the barely invited Supreme Court justices.
Well, they don't always show up, right? It's not like Clarence Thomas never comes. It was I think four were there.
He posted ahead of the event. I'm reluctantly inviting.
Yeah. They're right. He was, but he shook hands with Amy Coney Barrett, and it's bygones be bygones. Well, let's start with you, Madeline, our guest. What did you make of the State of the Union this year?
Yeah, actually, that was the first thing I was looking for too, is whether or not he was going to reach out and shake Amy Coney Barrett's hand specifically, because I was so disheartened and not surprised, but disheartened to hear him call the Supreme Court justices who disagreed with him a disgrace. I think he would earn a lot more credibility if, just once, when somebody in a position of leadership or authority disagreed with him, that he was like, at least I respect you, rather than calling them that. So that was the first thing I was looking for. But overall, everybody likes seeing people get medals. Everybody likes, feeling that national pride. And I think that he structured this because he hasn't been so popular lately. His numbers are way down, in a way that would allow people to feel solidarity. That's if I was his speechwriter, that would be my goal, was to just get people all back on the same page. I feel like Abigail Spanberger's was much better than I expected, but I think, I think the president is hurting in the numbers category. And so it's going to benefit him greatly to make people feel that national pride that allowed them to identify as MAGA in the first place.
Yeah, the solidarity, the national pride, is broadly speaking culturally part of the America First ethos, and Trump does that well. Emma Jo, so I thought it was valuable in that way. Of course, how much are people going to remember the State of the Union come voting time, or even come tomorrow? This news cycle, it moves fast. But I thought it was effective for what it was.
I don't think people remember lines, although there were some really memorable moments, that you do remember the line, but I think it's more how it makes them feel. And I think that Trump is really good at that. That's part of his extraordinary IQ for communication and his touch for showmanship. And you had the moment with the guy who drove the helicopter to Venezuela, and he got that medal, and you see him standing there with a walker, and it's so you think you have so much national pride when you look at him. He is a man who brings his whole nation together kind of in supporting him and in his example. But I think that the way, and he is so good at this, and apparently this wasn't, by the way, scripted, the way that he has the Democrats in opposition to positioning themselves in opposition to him to look horrible. You had the moment where he had, again, highlighting a little girl who got run over by an illegal alien in a truck. And I mean, I was actually emotional looking at her. And you have this disgusting and contemptuous attitude by the Democrats toward that little girl, which obviously it's toward Trump, but the girl was the one who they were looking at and who we were talking about, and that's who they're reacting to. And so the impression on the listener is that they are disrespecting her and the tragedy that she endured. Same with when he was talking about the fraud, the Somali fraud, and you have Ilhan Omar impotently heckling, apparently, again, positioning herself opposed to auditing and cleaning up fraud. And so, that I think creates this really visceral reaction in the viewer, at least it did in me. And I don't think as a political mind per se, but as from an emotional place. And that is what I think is memorable. It's creating that contrast with Democrats and forcing them to take these not only 80-20 positions, but odious positions in opposition to him.
We'll get more in depth on those couple ones you brought up there, Emma Jo. But Nina, let's get your high level take or surface deep take. My metaphors are all mixed up today. You know what I'm saying? What was your reaction?
I watched it as a work hazard. Okay, I already knew what the president was gonna say before.
Were you tossing your papers? Are you tossing your papers?
I was, Robbie. I am in trouble because I got these toddlers that then I have them picking up all the papers. So I know I'm violating some type of child labor laws. But
hey, I don't have any problem with that. I'm not going to get you in any trouble for that. That's the left coming after you there.
My toddlers, okay. Listen, the president, he said he was the best at it, best that has ever done it, best who's ever lived. The country is the best it's ever been. Workers are being taken care of. All of these exaggerations by the president whose ego is so big, it is always about him. To a point that Emma Jo made about the Democrats always fall into the trap. Because I'm going to tell you something, even though I don't agree with 99.9% of what President Donald J. Trump does and says, the man is masterful. I mean, he is masterful.
100%.
At reality TV. And guess what, folks? The State of the Union is nothing but reality TV, whether it's President Donald J. Trump, President Joseph R. Biden, President Barack Hussein Obama, President Clinton, whatever.
With the hard H there.
Is all reality TV. Okay. And one of the things that I do agree with this president on, he is the best at that. Now, all of this ceremonial. Now, Emma Jo, you're right. The Democrats should just gone and gave in on the little girl.
The little girl.
You said it though. It was not towards her, but it's what plays, as my sweetie says, what plays on TV.
Yes.
They should have not fallen into the trap of that, but they can't help themselves. Wearing all white and all of this nonsensical BS. I got more respect for the people who just boycotted the thing than the people who just came there.
So true, and it's better optics. It's better optics.
Trump hates an empty crowd.
Say that again, Madeline.
Trump hates empty crowds. He hates an empty seat.
Yeah, he does. Don't give him what
Probably just not being there is better. Yeah, let's play element 3. Remind our community members what we're talking about. That I think that's the moment between Ilhan Omar and Trump. Let's play that.
Duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens. You should be ashamed of yourself not standing up. You should be ashamed of yourself. That is why I'm also asking you to end deadly sanctuary cities that protect the criminals and enact serious penalties for public officials who block the removal of criminal aliens. In many cases, drug lords, murderers all over our country.
So, I mean, look, I'm pretty moderate on immigration as far as people even somewhat associated with the right go, but I think I would have stood for that for the government's primary, because I think you just look like you're going up against what a majority of the American people think, which is that, they support more immigration enforcement. Maybe they don't like how it's being done, or maybe they have reservations, as I do, about clashes between ICE and various people. But I don't think they're going to get ahead for themselves, looking like immigration enforcement is not a priority whatsoever. What do you say, Madeline?
Oh, you didn't think that there was any benefit to her screaming from 100 feet away with no mic on?
Right. Maybe there's a benefit to whoever is her constituency, but I don't think that the party wants that to be the face of the party, unless I'm missing something.
But that's the deal, is that the people who end up becoming the face of the party are the people who say, I don't care what the party wants me to do. And they end up getting clout because they have courage. And that's all people want to see. And so I think when you see the people failing to stand up, what I really hear from them, what they're saying without saying it, is that they don't want to lose their endorsements from the Democratic Party. Like, if this is the line that we're taking, if we're all going to get in line, I don't want to lose whatever I've been guaranteed. And I'm going to put that in jeopardy if I step out of line. But the fact is, the constituents in your district are the ones who elect you. They're the reasons why you're there. And if you demonstrate courage to them, that's what's going to put you back in your seat. That's what's going to make you go viral and get attention, which is what these Congress people want anyways, is just to go viral.
Well, I think that is the perfect example of the very precarious position Democrats are in, because they have this like frothing, furious, enraged base, and they think that they have to take every single opportunity that they could possibly find to show some sort of like protest, and they end up looking totally like desperate and inappropriate.
I mean,
Like,
MAGA's not frothy, Emma Joe.
Mhm.
MAGA's not frothy.
MAGA's pretty frothy.
Yeah, they're frothy as hell.
I think it's, well, no, because there's a bitterness and an anger that the left has now that MAGA doesn't have. Maybe you could say we're frothy when we're like canceling companies and stuff when our president's out of power. But now, no, there's glee, there's joy, there's this kind of like impish trolling kind of energy that you could say is annoying, and you could say perhaps is like you could call it maybe like a rebellion or rejection, but you don't call it angry. It's not at all the vibe of the left. It's not at all the vibe of the ICE protests. You don't find that in MAGA, at least not.
MAGA doesn't have I mean, the Trump coalition is pretty united around Trump. There are certainly disagreements on policy, disagreements on foreign policy, on, regulating versus not regulating tech. But there's we got to get, the faction, I would argue, of the right that didn't want Trump is gone. Whereas on the Democratic side, the problem I see, and, correct me if you disagree, either of you, Nina or Madeline, but is that there's a very active and energized base that does want a harder left, more adversarial, maybe even what a kind of Ilhan Omar type person represents. But that is a faction of the party, maybe even the bigger faction, but it's not. But then they give Abigail Spanberger, who is not associated with the faction, even though I think her politics are maybe lefter than it's perceived to be, but is not part of that group. That's the person who's delivering the response, and it's like there's not a lane being picked.
I mean, listen, I'm old enough to remember the Tea Party. They were pretty frothy, and they fought the Freedom Caucus that has held up things time and time again. So please,
well, back then there were different lanes. Yes, I would agree with you in 2010.
That's not
so.
So.
I think Robby misunderstood. At least I have a different understanding of the group that Nina is referring to than Robby does. Robby seems to think that Nina is talking about the group of right-wingers who are not in MAGA. I understand that she's talking about MAGA, and MAGA does have a simmering anger to it. It does. That's correct.
That's what I'm talking about.
Which I think, the progressive, like Nina's vibe of progressive kind of shares, which is just you exported my jobs to Asia, sent my sons to Iraq for nothing and Afghanistan for nothing. My children have no hope to have a better life than I do, and I'm pissed. Which definitely is, braided throughout everything MAGA says and does. That anger is real. But there's something about Trump's style that translates it into something that you can have fun with, as opposed to Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, these types that you see them there and they're just, it seems like there's this, like I actually don't even know how to describe it. It just has a different flavor than
But
Matt,
Joe,
a more bitter
I mean,
flavor.
President Donald J. Trump being men, and I'm just generically speaking, so this is not for all men, but
here we go.
The type of place that we live in, men are given a little more leeway to be for that level of bravado, whether it's Donald J. Trump or somebody else, where when women exhibit that, somehow they get an extra level of scrutiny. Now, so Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib, being the only Palestinian in that Congress and seeing what's happening in the Gaza, both under, now don't forget, she came at President Joseph R. Biden too. Mm-hmm. She didn't just come at President Donald J. Trump, and she had every right because the genocide started under President Biden. I think she has a right to be a little angry and to be a little upset and to show the requisite emotion for what is happening. President Donald J. Trump is labeling all Somalians, all of them, every single one of them, as if corruption and the theft of public dollars has only happened under Somalian people.
It's 17% across the board in every state.
It's a problem.
Yeah, so, just to be clear.
I mean, first of all, Cory Booker has that same that same I think flavor.
I agree.
Example.
I agree with you. And I think
but just one more thing, which I have to correct because I can't resist, and I corrected it the last time this came up when it was happening. He did not say, and no one is implying that it's all Somali people who are scammers.
He is implying that.
He definitely said that.
Emma Joe
He said, I don't want them. They're garbage. They're garbage.
He did say that.
He said they're all garbage. Get them out of the country.
Well,
he's expressing anger at a specific fraud ring that was outrageous.
And then y'all get to look at us and say, see, these liberals, they overreact to everything. That's what happens. We fall into the trap by just being ourselves because they created the trap so that logic and facts won't allow us to fight back.
I think if anyone is saying that obviously the entire community is guilty of the criminal actions of a few, that is wrong and should be confronted and criticized. I think now I can't vouch for what every single person on the right happened to say about this. I'm sure some of it was no good. In fact, I saw, unfortunately, I mean, maybe we should talk about this. Nick Shirley, that kid who did the documentary video on some of the fraud, responding to a different YouTube video today that this, I guess, person I'd never heard of, but I guess is some big YouTube right-wingy type person that was all about how Jews are taking over his neighborhood. And Nick had like, yeah, go get him, man, kind of comment that was has a lot of people on the right concerned about how...
Not enough, though, probably.
Well, I think there's high-level concern. I've become way more concerned about the level of just free-floating anti-Semitism I encounter on social. I've never changed my mind so aggressively on any topic, in fact, as I have.
I appreciate that very much as a Jewish person. But I think that actually what we're highlighting here by highlighting these specific legislators is the different factions that are being created. So like on the right, when you have a bunch of different coalitions and factions that come together and unify in order to get somebody elected, right? Once you win, that faction is going to start to break apart because it's just human nature for people to start differentiating themselves. So if you can't control that split, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Tucker Carlson, and Nick Fuentes are going to come in and scoop all those people up because they're going to be defectors, period. It's going to happen. And just like there are defectors on the left who happen to also fall into the anti-Semitic category or are simply criticizing Israel rightly. You know, as these defectors are more and more created, we're seeing two factions in the Democratic Party develop. One, I like to call the fighters, right? Which we see like Jasmine Crockett, Gavin Newsom, Cory Booker. These are the ones that I think are playing defense. And then we've got the offense, which I think is like Mamdani and AOC. These are people who like, it's very fitting to call them progressive because they're the ones that are creating the hope, the vision for the future that you see for yourself, where that it's easier for you in the future. And I think the problem that the Republican Party is going to face is that there is a whole host of voters who are either independent or brand new voters, because they're young, who don't have party loyalty and who thought they'd give Trump a shot. And they were like, oh yeah, he definitely disappointed me. I don't like anything that I'm seeing here. It seemed like he made sense before because all those liberals looked crazy because we walked into their trap over and over again. But at this point, I don't have any loyalty to them. My identity is not tied up in MAGA. So I'm fine to switch sides or to stay home. And I think that's going to create a problem.
I think
I
it
think
is.
that's-
Where is it? Can I just ask, where is that occurring and what exactly do you mean?
Sorry?
You were talking about AOC and Cory Booker as examples of people who are on offense, who are kind of creating a vision.
Cory Booker's more defense, I would say.
Or like playing some sort of leadership role, which I guess I wouldn't dispute, but you went from that and talking about different kinds of like factions that are created within groups, which I agree with and followed that. And then you said that there were some people who voted for Trump, which I also followed, who aren't necessarily like ID'd MAGA.
Yeah.
And then you said you jumped to, which I'm not sure how you got there, and I want to understand what you're talking about, to the Democrats no longer are repulsive in the way that they were when this cohort voted for Trump, and now
Yeah.
I'm mad at Trump because I was betrayed. And in what way? And what group is this? And why? And how have the Democrats improved?
Yeah, that's fair. So Trump is down by 27 points with independents, or more maybe. And I think that it's because these folks who identified as independent, many of whom were Gen Z new voters, or were part of that 1/3 of Americans who don't vote, thought that they would give Trump a shot because they felt like the country was stagnant and that they just wanted to see some action, and they believed that Trump would do it, and they didn't take what he said seriously, like, or literally, or whatever the distinction is there. And now that they see ICE committing human rights violations constantly, now that they see that, they're actually, the statistic that I got today is that 1 in 10 of every person who's currently incarcerated in ICE custody is just waiting on their court hearing. They're here legally, and they're still being incarcerated. And so when they see all these human rights violations being committed, they go, oh, this isn't what I signed up for. I'm ready to switch. And so you have two options. You can either stay home or you can vote Democrat. And if the Democrats are able to create a soft landing pad for these factions of people as they break apart, then the Democrats can collect them, as long as, Marjorie Taylor Greene and Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes don't scoop them up first, because they don't have that loyalty to one side or the other.
So you think what's turning off the independents is Trump, is the voters?
Is ICE? Absolutely.
Is the immigration effort? Numbers do not show that. No,
I don't think that closing the border
doesn't show that at all.
I don't think closing the border turns them off. I don't think that having a reasonable immigration policy turns them off. I think that ICE committing human rights violations, saying that people aren't allowed to film them and instead responding with force, turns them off. I'm saying that not giving people any notice before they take them to incarceration for 8 weeks and their family doesn't know where they are, deporting them to other countries, right? That's what's turning people off. Is that funny?
So you don't have the context that I have, which is sitting in this seat every week, and we've had a few Democrats come in who have made this point to me maybe 5 times now, and various people have done the same point. And I'm smiling, not at human rights violations, God forbid, but at, I've had so many Democrats sit in this box that I'm staring at right now, tell me that that it seems to represent they seem to represent the position that apparently, I guess, Democrats are taking, because I've heard it so many times, that we need to ease up on that whole immigration restriction stuff. And I wonder, is that really what they're going to go for? Is that
that I can agree with you with, because the Democrats suck at messaging. They're terrible at it. Because
you just messaged that at me just right now.
Exactly. No, that's not what I said. I said that the human rights violations that ICE is committing is the thing that's turning people away who have already said that they like Trump. I didn't say that they want to ease off of immigration in the way that Democrats would just put a blanket statement out there and say that. Right.
So
the Democrats do have to say what they're for in terms of immigration.
This is the type of happy talk that makes no sense to me. So ICE is supposed to, so we don't believe in open borders.
There's a middle ground.
No, we believe in immigration enforcement. but we don't believe in quote unquote human rights violations by ICE. So how does one extract an illegal alien from the country who is not willingly leaving and who is most likely or is a criminal aside from illegally entering the country?
So let's be
How
clear.
do we do that?
So let's be clear. 1 out of 10 people who are currently in ICE custody are here legally and are just waiting on their court hearings. Less than 5% of the people who are currently in ICE custody have committed a violent crime. Everyone else hasn't. Okay, let's just be clear about that too. So it's difficult to trust the Trump administration when he's standing up, holding pictures of criminals, characterizing them all as he has constantly done as rapists, murderers, criminals, emptying their mental institutions. He said it thousands and thousands of times, right? So it's easier for us to put them aside and not pay attention.
How many illegal aliens does it take to hit an 11-year-old with a car?
That's exactly what he wants you to say. That's why
That's
he showed
exactly
you. That's why he showed you that at the
happened.
State of the Union. So you walk away saying that.
Okay,
There's a
yeah,
middle
but
ground here to be found.
yeah, I mean, we can't. I don't think, Emma, you may disagree with this, Emma Jo. I don't. There will be some level of additional harms caused by enforcement that will cause public support for doing. I mean, I agree with you that there's
No additional harms when you put somebody under arrest.
How
What's that?
are you?
No.
She asked,
Okay,
how are
but
you supposed to?
two people died in the process of these things being
Because
enforced.
they were interfering with an
Were
arrest.
killed.
They were not.
Murdered.
That's not what happened.
They died. I'm saying even if you think either of those instances were justified or can present some justification, the idea that they are, I think it's pretty clear from the public polling, they are denting the enthusiasm to do the immigration enforcement this way. There's still support to do immigration enforcement, but like it's going to endanger the entire project. And there are in fact internal disagreements over doing it this way because Tom Homan didn't want to do it the way Kristi Noem wanted it.
That logic saying, like it only takes one person is like saying, okay, well, white males are the ones that are responsible for the vast majority of school shootings. They shouldn't have guns. It's the same logic.
No, it isn't. That's a Second Amendment right. Immigration.
Let me finish, please. Less than 1% of all illegal immigrants in this country have ever even been arrested for a violent crime. So what your response to me was when I said that 1 out of 10 are here legally, when I said less than 5% of them have ever committed a violent crime, your response to me was it only takes one to run over a little girl. And that's exactly what he wanted you to walk away saying and not pay attention to the other 99%.
Well, then I go back the other way because people don't find that persuasive because people will say, well, there should not be, they shouldn't be in the country at all. And any additional crimes committed by them are not, even if it's not disproportionate, should not be happening because if our borders were being enforced.
No. 1 in 10 are here legally.
Do you have a daughter?
I don't. I hope to.
God willing, you will, because it's the biggest thing that'll ever happen to you. And would you sacrifice her for this stupid statistic?
Never. And I always say,
no, these girls.
That's what he wants you to say. So you will ignore 99 out of 100 people who are still people.
They are not. I mean,
you don't care.
Have a right to enter the country. That little girl has a right to safety.
Yes, she does. I totally agree with that. And I've said a million times, I would be a terrible judge because if I had somebody in front of me who hurt someone else, who hurt their child, I would look the other way. I've studied child welfare. That was what I did for years. I love kids. And when you bring kids up to me, my heart melts. I was sitting watching the State of the Union and my heart melted for her. My job though, right now is to advocate for the other 99 out of 100 people that Trump doesn't want you to pay attention to because this one is causing a problem.
All right, we got a hand up. Let's bring in
the 99.
Bring in Anthony, I think, has been waiting. Hello, my friend. Nice to see you.
Yeah, hi guys. Hi, nice to see you guys and gals again.
What's up?
I'll give my comment on the State of the Union. I watched both the State of the Union and the response to it. They were both okay. Like, I don't know what you expect to see besides Trump playing to the base and the Democrats kind of falling into the trap again. I think honestly the Democrats should have stood up for the illegal. I understand it was a trap, yes, but I think at this point, 10 years out, you should recognize that. I also think the one thing that irritates me, even though I'm an independent who's probably going to be voting blue in the midterms at this point, I don't like the way the Democrats always fall into traps when it comes to Trump saying things like against them. Like I don't want to, but I would almost like to run for Congress, win, and say, hey, Trump can call whatever name he wants to, but I don't really care. He can say whatever memes he wants to say. I really don't care, because that's what you should do against a guy like this. You want to stand strong against the bully. Don't respond to him. Don't give him the attention that he wants. But whether it's Hakeem Jeffries, Chuck Schumer, or whatever, they respond to it, and it just makes them look stupid. So I don't know why they haven't realized that, but that's just me.
Oh my God, Anthony, you're brilliant.
On, my friend.
That's just me too. Listen, I don't know why they are ill-equipped. The current Democratic leadership, which is why their poll numbers are, in the tank as well. The entire Congress is, but just Democrats. Democratic faithful have no use for Democratic leadership. I mean, that is very clear. And Hakeem Jeffries, Congressman Hakeem Jeffries, and Senator Chuck Schumer are in over their heads. And because they continue to try to play on President Donald J. Trump's terrain, you cannot play on the terrain. You cannot, when you're going up against somebody, you don't play on their terrain. You're going to lose every time. They are ill-equipped for the mission. That any of you have ever watched the Mission Impossible series knows that the thing, it says, if you should take this is going to explode. Self-destruct or whatever, should you take the assignment? Meaning you don't have to take the assignment. And they keep taking the assignment over and over again, and they just do not have what it takes. They just look stupid. And it is animating the base of Democrats who not necessarily label themselves as progressives, but they are just sick and tired of the antics of the Democratic Party, their fecklessness, their weakness. I mean, they had a whole bunch of sock puppets. Where was that at? Whatever stage I saw these puppet things behind somebody. And I thought, are you kidding? I mean, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, really.
Sweet baby
That's
moment.
what I was calling them. I'm tired of these people. Anthony, run, baby, run, Anthony.
Well, that's what I was saying. The
Anthony,
Democrats
run,
do not
please.
like their leadership. Republicans do like their leadership. Their leader is Trump.
That's
They're
a good
happy.
point, Robbie.
Democrats are not happy. And it's easier to, and also they don't have to, because there is no leader right now of the Democratic Party. They're figuring out who is going to be the next leader. So it is easier on like a generic ballot for people who are dissatisfied with Trump administration not doing as much as expected or as promised on economic relief or whatever it is, to say, well, maybe I wish it would be Democrat. But that's because there is no face right now to associate with Democrats. When and if that face is AOC, then the Trump people will be able to say, well, do you prefer Trump or do you prefer AOC? Maybe that will be to the Democrats' benefit. I don't think so, but maybe it will be. We have Colleen up next, I think. Hello, Colleen. Nice to see you. Welcome back. What's on your mind?
Our old friend.
Yes, we love our regulars.
You're muted. Okay.
There
Hi
you go.
guys, sorry.
Hi.
How's it
Oh,
going?
first, I mean, as a Democrat, I was disappointed also that the Dems behaved badly there and that they didn't applaud the young girl and that poor Charlotte girl. That video will haunt me. I don't know if you've seen that video. But overall, I mean, as always, I try to take away from Trump what we can get from him for the American people. The Trump accounts, that's a big deal. The Democrats could, that's
Get on
good
board.
the health insurance, as I'm always on about health insurance, he was talking about the maximum price transparency and going up against the pharmaceuticals and getting drugs cheaper. And I think he'll achieve that. And I think the Debs should work with him on that if they can and try to make
Something's
it.
good, just say it's good.
It's great.
Yeah.
And it's a big issue for most Americans. Also, when you were talking about young people, I'm a parent of young people. They don't really care about ICE that much. There's a crisis going on that's simmering in this country with new college grads and young people that they can't get jobs because AI is taking that. And that's all across the country, very good schools. There is a crisis, and they thought Trump was going to fix the economy, help them get jobs, and they can't. But I honestly don't think that, as for everybody, the economy is what's most important for young people, old people, all Americans.
Are your kids in, they're college age now? Is that what
College age, just graduated, and one graduated a year ago, and it took him a year to get a job. And they're applying constantly, and all of their friends are in the same boat. I mean, it's not, and if you talk to other parents, they're all talking about this all the time. And it's something they thought, so, and also again, for young men, they view that the Democratic Party doesn't like them, just doesn't like men. Men are toxic. Not just white guys, all everybody. So they're not very popular with young men overall. But so I guess it depends who the Dems put up. But anyway, Trump, the health insurance, the Trump accounts, I think he framed Iran quite well. I'm sure after the attack, which I think is imminent, as we all probably know, he'll probably have a longer explanation. His promotion or, his talking about Rubio, I think Rubio is an excellent foreign minister. So I think that I think he's doing a good job, and I think that will, not that Americans vote on foreign policy, but I think it will be a success. And Cuba's coming up. That will be another success. So overall, I was a little disappointed in how the Dems reacted, but I always try to look for what we can take away for the people, for American people, and I think he offered some good stuff.
I'm interested actually in how young people are reacting to all the AI news and how that's going to affect their employment. I mean, it's just I think an interesting topic in general, and not just young people at every level of their career, because this is going to make like legal research is going to be the first thing to go. The AI does that pretty well. Some jobs that some white collar professionals or people who got liberal arts degrees, or maybe even more likely math, computer science degrees, is going to be automated, and it's just happening. There's nothing there's absolutely nothing that policymakers are going to do to stop it. Even the Trump administration is like very in support of AI, and I don't know what else you can do, but it's interesting. Of course, I finished college in 2010, and that was a bad job market, let me tell you. It took me a long time to get anything other than an internship in our collapsing media industry. I think the structure overall of having set it up so that the number one automatic choice young people are supposed to make for themselves is oh yeah, go into debt, go to a fancy college, take as much time as you want, be in his debt for as long as you want, get a fancy degree, really find yourself. And not, by the way, calling that any of your kids did this, but just there was a kind of social suggestion that's a good path for a young professional person. And then there'll be jobs waiting for you. And oh wait, there's way too many people who took that path, and there are not jobs that can make back what these universities cost. It's a problem that AI is about to make much worse.
Yes, it's a big problem that's going on right now. So anyway,
I don't have an answer for it. People are gonna have to be robot assembly repairmen or something. Gonna get really good with our Legos. Something else that came out of the State of the Union was J.D. Vance announcing Medicaid payments freeze because of Minnesota fraud. Let's play that element, actually. That was element 8.
Decided to temporarily halt certain amounts of Medicaid funding that are going to the state of Minnesota in order to ensure that the state of Minnesota takes its obligations seriously to be good stewards of the American people's tax money. What we're doing is we are stopping the federal payments that will go to the state government until the state government takes its obligations seriously to stop the fraud that's being perpetrated against the American taxpayer.
Robby?
Nina, take it away.
My God. We have a Pentagon budget. They failed, 8 audits? And this man has the pure, unadulterated goal with a straight face to stand up there and talk about the taxpayers' dollars. How about if you want to be good stewards? And I am no way support anybody involved in the Minnesota fraud. Let the state of Minnesota handle this thing and deal with it. I'm sure there's lots of fraud and waste and abuse that goes on, unfortunately, across the country.
But what if we don't trust them to handle?
They don't care about that, Robby. They don't care about that.
I care about it.
This is a political BS move to hurt What the president, he criticizing the Democrats for not standing up in terms of the position of the American government should be, or federal government should be to stand up for the American people. But then at the same time, you want to punish the people of Minnesota based on some stuff some other people did. It is rotten. So if they truly, truly, truly care about fraud, waste, and abuse, I implore them to start with the Pentagon budget first, and then come back and talk to me about Minnesota.
Okay, but they have to, they're cutting off the payments because they can't verify that they will not be spent.
Robbie, it's a bunch of BS.
I mean,
Cut Pentagon budget first, and then
oh,
come back.
You don't threaten me with a good time. I'll cut that Pentagon budget right up. I'll slice it up.
I want to threaten you with a good time.
We'll do Medicare, Social Security, defense, all of it. All of it goes. That's my agenda.
So, Robbie, you seemed very sincere just now when you said, I care. I believe you.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question,
Yes.
right? If overall, and I don't know what's isolated to Minnesota, about 4.5% of the funds that are involved in Medicaid and Medicare are involved in fraud in whatever capacity, right? 4.5%. Is it worth cutting old people off from their insulin in order to make a point like JD Vance is trying to make? Is it worth these people who are American citizens who haven't done anything wrong not getting what they need in order to tackle this fraud problem in this manner?
Are you asking me? Yes. I would say yes.
Why are you willing to sacrifice them?
I would reform this whole system. I'm not in favor of handouts, welfare, entitlements. So
I'm not saying reform the system. I'm saying this action.
Yeah, I would start. I don't believe that it's just 4.5%. I think that
but it is.
Well,
how can you say
that's what they know so far? We got to do an investigation and figure out. I agree with you that it's not confined to Minnesota. On that point, I agree with you. And so,
the minimum budget.
Yeah, they're doing it in blue states. They're doing it in red states. I support a total shutdown until we know what's going on. I would go in state after state and suspend and then look at what payments are going where. I suspect the fraud. I mean, these were fake. This is just tip of the iceberg. Fake organizations that were being I mean, let's talk about what the fraud actually is, right? These organizations set up that they're going to provide some kind of service and they're going to bill the government for reimbursement. And they were being reimbursed for services that they're not actually performing, whether it was, in some cases, care for seniors or delivery of meals to seniors or educating of children, those kinds of things. They're not doing it. That's just money being pilfered by the government, pilfered by us. In my view, the racial aspect of it was overemphasized, and I certainly believe that there is.
You know why, don't you, Robbie? You know why it was overemphasized.
Fine, yeah, won't argue with that. For racist reasons, fine.
Okay.
Bad,
and like
not
I said,
good.
I think you're sincere.
Let's not concentrate on that. We should concentrate, and it should bring together all Americans. The amount of abuse in these their tax dollars being misused, not because it's people who don't look like them, just because it's people. And that's wrong. And we can go down red states and blue states as well.
So who gets sacrificed then, right? Because in the meantime, if this is your method of getting rid of the fraud, which by the way,
my money and yours.
Sorry?
It's our money. It's our tax dollars.
I'm talking about people who need medicine.
Right. Well, I mean, Medicaid is not the only way to pay for medicine. Some of these medicines, I agree with what Emma Jo said. I think Emma Jo said it about. We're all in favor of the prescription drug negotiation.
Yeah, me too.
Insulin, the price of insulin is so high because the company that makes it has a patent that is, in my view, ludicrous and is actually an example of the government preventing market-based competition. I don't know why. I don't think the patent should be enforced. I think you should be able to make a generic competitor to it. I think you should be able to import it from other countries that sell it, and you would create competition for it, and you would lower the price. There is a government-created artificial monopoly for the company that sells it, and that's why the price is so high. And I would end that.
You understand that in the meantime, while you're tackling this fraud using this particular method, that old people and disabled people, because that's who's on Medicaid, are not going to get the things that they need. Just more stats. Sorry, 17% across the board in every state committed fraud when it came to COVID era subsidies as it pertained to business affiliated
but
stuff.
Do you see how in our society we spend an extraordinary amount on medical care and benefits and entitlements for a whole lot of Americans, especially a whole lot of older Americans who disproportionately have more of the wealth in our society than they have at any other. We're talking about, we heard from Colleen, like young people can't find jobs, can't afford to buy houses, are delaying starting families because they are paying, they can't, these things are disproportionately held by the elderly who we are paying entitlements to support. Like at what point is it ever going to be enough is what I'm asking. The way this is skewed toward transferring all of the money in our society toward the people on these entitlements.
We are not transferring all. I mean, corporate welfare is the biggest fraud scheme out there. The reason why people like Elon Musk and others are the multi-billionaires approaching trillionaires that they are at the backs of working class people in this country with their corporate welfare contracts. So, Robby, entitlement, I think human beings are entitled to live. I think human beings are entitled to healthcare in the United States of America, the hegemonic nation. It is.
I don't think they're entitled to my money.
It's cruel.
Create charity organizations that are
cruel.
Bilking
and in the meantime,
government.
if people don't get their medicine, then whatever.
It's cruel and unusual punishment.
I think it's cruel to young people that they're being forced to pay into a social security system that they'll never see a dime out of because it's going to go insolvent.
Well, it's listen, then let's figure out a way. Why do we have to accept that premise? That entitlement is something that people worked for and paid into. So let's not play these games about this. See, the immorality and the lack of empathy for people it is something.
Oh, empathy is a bad thing on that side. Empathy is toxic.
Every other industrialized nation has some form of universal health care. But when it comes to war, I don't hear people talking the same kind of smack. But when it comes to providing for people,
I mean, I don't want to
be human means that we are going to have a need. We pay more
what
for
level of
healthcare,
taxation
and we
on
have
productive people are we willing to
outcomes.
support? Mamdani wants what, 52%? It's 60%.
Man, ain't nobody talking about no daggone
How much of your
Mamdani?
income is going to be confiscated
I
to
don't
make
care about
sure
no
that senior
Mamdani,
citizens
Robby.
and their Medicare Advantage programs can get like tennis
Medicare
lessons?
Advantage
But you
does not
still
You're
work.
paying for it.
It's a giveaway to private insurance companies. I'm saying that in the United
Well, there is
States
too much of that. We
America,
agree on that.
can we find a way to ensure that people don't put insulin on credit cards, that 63,000 people don't die every single year because they don't have health care? Meanwhile, we continue to give the Pentagon budget all the money that it wants. When do we balance the domestic tranquility scale?
I mean, I'll cut wherever you want to cut, but we got to
I'm gonna need that cigar that Raleigh. I'm gonna need that cigar, brother.
I got
they about to drive me to smoke.
I can't.
In half an hour, I'll be
I need
smoking.
that cigar.
Have you guys heard this phrase? Have you guys heard the phrase that was like, Democrats will feed 100 people out of concern that 10 people really need it, and Republicans will withhold food from 100 people out of the fear that 10 people might not need it? Have you guys heard that one?
That's
But
a
to
good
me,
one.
it comes down to the
preaches.
principle of whose food, like
Whose food? See, that's the hierarchy of humanity, right? That's hierarchy of who deserves it and who doesn't.
No, but the government doesn't just the government has no resources of its own. It is confiscating from some people and giving to others.
So
That's
why don't
fine.
we
If you want to reform the system,
Oh, my
fine.
God.
Like that's
Yeah,
totally fine.
let's-
What I'm
let's-
saying is this is the policy that they've chosen to take that reflects their priorities, that reflects their values, right? We're okay with people not getting what they need if we're able to reform. I love this. If we're able to reform that 4.5%.
All right, let's get Kelly in here. We got Kelly with a hand up. Come on down. Hello? Nice to see you. You're still muted. Can you unmute
There we go.
yourself?
Yeah,
There you go. Hi. Love your background.
Thank you. I wasn't going to raise my hand at first, but I kind of fall with Robby a little bit on this one, although on just this waste, fraud, and abuse. And I guess I would ask more like, Madeline, I hear you're, at some point it's got to stop. Like we can't continue to just spend money recklessly. We know there's waste, fraud, and abuse. But if you don't want to do what like JD Vance is doing or whatnot, what is your suggestion for addressing it?
Yeah, and that's a totally fair question. And I think that it actually full circle harkens back to what we were talking about at the beginning, where Democrats will come out and put a blanket statement like abolish all immigration policy, right? When there still needs to be something in the middle. I think that there absolutely is fraud that exists, right? Like I said, 4.5%. And there needs to be a reform of it. And I think that DOGE in its ideal state could have done something like that. Unfortunately, what it ended up doing was steal all of our data, and now are using it to create a surveillance database about us. But I do think that the idea of DOGE in terms of like finding the problem, diagnosing it, and figuring out how to deal with it in a way that doesn't cost people who currently need things, their health and their well-being. There's a way to do that, and it's like the hammer versus scalpel thing. But I hear you
Those broke
100%,
my
and I
heart.
think that the Democrats shouldn't take a blanket
Those
statement
broke
to
my
it and
heart.
say that the idea is wrong to try to reduce that. So I think it's a message.
I'll never fall in love again.
Because I
after
think
DOGE.
throwing money at the problem isn't always a solution, right? Because
That's fair.
I mean, if you look at it, just really quick, statistically speaking, New York spends 3 times as much money to educate as Mississippi does, and Mississippi's fourth graders are currently more are the
I
fourth
saw that story this week. That was
This
very
is
interesting.
very
I
true.
saw that.
It's
Yeah.
the same. Mississippi spends 1/3 as New York, and like California spends like 2x or something. But more fourth graders are proficient at reading and math in Mississippi. But if you go a step further and look into it, the poverty levels are higher in Mississippi too.
Yeah.
So throwing more money at the problem isn't the solution. They focus, they refine.
So at base level, right? At base level, you look at that, and if you're somebody on my side who isn't like, I don't work for the Democratic Party, I don't work for any candidate, who's somebody who has no allegiance other than to the truth and to what's going to be best for people. You look at that and go, okay, well, we need to figure some stuff out. Like, because obviously this isn't fitting with the perspective that I already had on how things work. And I think that the issue, right, I guess it goes deeper than messaging, right? It's in perspective. It's the one side on the Republican side saying we are willing to sacrifice people in the meantime. And on the Democrat side, it's saying we are not willing to look at the problem. And if you can find something in the middle where you actually take action, because when people hear a solution in the middle, they get frustrated because they're like, well, that sounds like you're not going to do anything about it. I get that. And so what Democrats need to do is attach a message of action to that in a way that tells you exactly what they're going to do. Like Mom Donnie did with, this is how we're going to pay for stuff. He told you exactly how he's going to do it. Whether you like it or not, the messaging worked because they gave you the why. They gave you the why and they gave you the how. So I think you're absolutely right. And that asking more questions like that will lead to better outcomes in general.
And perhaps the way we frame the question, like just assuming Republicans are willing to sacrifice people.
But that's the fact though. That's the fact though.
Yeah. You just gave me a whole speech about how like anyone's daughter is like up for sacrifice because of the 99% or the one.
That's not what I said at all. It's your framing of what I said. I didn't say that at all. I said we should focus on the 1% instead of roping that 99% into all being like the 1%.
It sacrifices people who get injured in the pursuit.
No, it doesn't. That's again, you can attack the issue by isolating it and not roping too much into one category.
I don't know. I guess I would say to both sides. When you come at it, making blanket statements about either, it just
like I would sacrifice dogs.
Like it gets people's guard up. Like why not just like maybe it'd be easier to work together and find solutions if it wasn't framing the question in a way or solution that also passed judgment.
Well said.
Right. I mean, with that one specifically, we need to, or whenever you use one example to be like, and this is why we shouldn't have, you have to think about trade-offs or how representative the example is, this comes in with AI, right? They're rolling out self-driving cars in a lot of places, and it's already happened. Self-driving car ran over a cat, and so they don't want to have self-driving cars. But I know that 50,000 people die in car accidents every year, and if the self-driving cars are dramatically better at driving than human beings, that it could be a massive literal savings in human life. This is like the number one way people die in America other than of disease is of car crashes. But if you can point to one instance where the self-driving car did something wrong and people are going to say, this is why we shouldn't have that. But I'll say, okay, but it's, once here and 50,000 times here. And I'm wary of that kind of argument. But now if because an illegal immigrant doesn't know our road sign, as I know was the case in some of it, doesn't know the road signs, was getting licensed to do this improperly, then absolutely you could make a case that this should be prohibited or looked at more. So I think in that example, I would agree with probably what Emma Jo thinks about it, but I guess that's why I'm wary of that approach in general. We've got
Robby,
yes.
before we go to our next audience members, you said you'll never love again, huh?
After Doge.
Yeah,
After Doge. I'll never love again.
I fell in love with an initiative to shrink government and cut government spending. And she's the one who got away. Broke my heart. Very sad. Very sad. I'll never trust again. My trust was shattered.
I can't.
This gorgeous initiative to cut government spending, but it was a lie. It was a lie. And
I'm Team Robby, guys.
I'm heartbroken.
That's awesome.
I'm really heartbroken.
You gotta help Robby love.
Thank
again.
you.
I
Thank
want
you
his
for
trust restored.
venting with me, and I'll survive. Ryan, we've got a Ryan in here. There you are. Hello, nice to see you. Oh, good to see you. How are you doing?
Doing well. I guess the conversation about fraud, I mean, I can understand that folks are very, upset with our tax dollars going to things of that nature. But I mean, from a democratic response, I mean, the first that I'm just, to use the word triggered, I hate using it, but the amount of pardons in this first year of millionaires and billionaires who are convicted, or the Justice Department has been in the process of prosecuting, and we've got commutations and pardons up to no end. I mean, Republicans are talking out of both sides of their mouths, and we're talking about Somali fraud in Minnesota. It's just, that is, from my perspective, one of the most frustrating. Thank you, Madeline.
Paper too.
I mean, in our defense, I don't know anybody on the Republican side, whether they're in politics or media or my dad or whatever, who is excited about computations. That was something that I think was a pet project of Jared's and probably had good intentions. I can understand, I guess, the First Step Act being something that obviously is close to him and is a good idea, but this stuff about pardons and commutations excites exactly nobody that I've ever met or know.
Yeah.
At the same time, I mean, I'm not hearing any pushback from Republicans in office. I mean,
the pushback you're hearing is them not talking about it.
Yeah, which is not the same thing.
That goes to show that they don't like it, right? They don't bring it up.
That's not the same thing, though. Just not saying anything versus not pushing back. And I think it's reflective of priorities. What are you trying to communicate? Because for everybody watching, every single thing that a politician does that you hear about is messaging. Every single thing, right? Because that's the way they communicate with us. That's the way they get your favor. So what's he trying to say? Or is this something that he'd rather keep in the shadows? That's even the first question.
Right. I mean, I didn't love when whoever it was, he got asked, oh, you pardoned, I can't remember who it was, some person, and he was like, I did that? What are you talking about? You're
talking about ByteDance.
Yeah, that guy, right? And I'm like, well, wait a minute, especially when you're making so much out of who did Biden know he was pardoning, that I think are actually legitimate questions given what we know about Biden's cognitive state. But you can't be
conscious.
Right, but you shouldn't be going off on that if you can't tell me why. Would you say, well, who did I pardon? I don't know why I did that. Did I really do that? Jared.
Yeah, he blamed Don Jr. He's like, that was Don Jr's idea. I'm like, all I'm thinking
Don
of is
Jr. does
AutoPen.
seem kind of like an idiot. I think we can all agree on that. Not my favorite. Yeah.
He suggested JD Vance, so
No, it was a great show.
All right, I think we got to leave it there. Thank you all so much for participating in this episode of the group chat. We love our two-way family. Madeline, thank you for being with us. That was a lot of fun. Nice to have you. Great discussion. And we will see you back here next week. Take care.